At some point in the recent past, the United States stopped building metro systems. Yes, there have been a few isolated metro lines, sometimes in conjunction with larger networks of other types of rail, and plenty of older systems have been expanded, but no brand new comprehensive heavy rail metro systems with multiple trunk lines, things like the New York subway or the Washington Metro, have opened in the US in the last 46 years. Today, we're riding the very last one to open, Atlanta's MARTA Rail, a system that has devoted fans, yet is somewhat overshadowed in the grand scheme of American transit, and doesn't get an operating budget from its own state government, despite literally serving the State House. But why does this line have just one unique stop? Is this subway station actually at ground level? And is paying your fare here truly a breeze? The only way to find out is to go for a ride. MARTA, Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority for long, operates 48 miles of heavy metro across 4 lines, serving the Georgia State Capital Region. Like its bigger sister systems from the same era, those being BART and the Washington Metro, it utilizes a post-war metro design, with higher speeds, longer stop spacing, commuter-focused lines out to some suburbs, and larger rolling stock that bears a striking resemblance to that of the Washington Metro. The east-west blue line runs from Hamilton E. Holmes East to Indian Creek, and the green line starts at Bankhead, before joining the blue line as far as Edgewood Candler Park. In the north, the red line starts at North Springs, while Doraville sees the start of the gold line. The two lines meet at Lindbergh Center before traveling south to Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, where I've just arrived thanks to my Frontier Airlines Go Wild Pass. Right away, I head down to the most ridden train in Metro Atlanta, the Plain Train, which takes me over to the landside terminal. I always appreciate when transit agencies have big, bold, obvious signage in places like airports, and MARTA absolutely delivers here, with clear directions to the airport's train station. You come up from the Plain Train, there's massive signs that say, MARTA, this way! I feel like some places I've been, signage has not been great, so kudos to MARTA for putting great wayfinding here in the airport. Let's go find the train. So I was told that I should get a Breeze card with a $9 day pass to ride MARTA today, so that's what I'm gonna do. So this is fairly unique. You have a single fare machine, but then you have all these different agencies here. Yeah, so funny story there. When MARTA was founded in 1965, it was meant to include the city of Atlanta and 5 surrounding counties. But Cobb County rejected the referendum to join, and Clayton and Gwinnett counties rejected a 1% sales tax to fund the system in 1971. Leaving only Fulton and DeKalb counties, plus the city of Atlanta, to run MARTA buses and rail. Clayton finally joined MARTA in 2014, but Cobb and Gwinnett to this day operate their own bus systems, which are, as we can see, also covered by the Breeze card system. And here I'm barely scratching the surface of MARTA's messy formation, including how race and class influenced where the system ended up running. I've linked some articles below that go into that in much greater detail. MARTA began construction on a heavy rail system in 1975, and this opened to the public in 1979. After BART and the Washington Metro, MARTA was the third multi-line metro system to open from scratch in the 1960s and 70s in America. These 3 systems are unofficially referred to as the Great Society Metros, after the Lyndon Johnson administration's push to fund mass transit in America. Easy breezy. Unusually, even for a newer metro system, every fare gate in the airport station is wheelchair accessible. I think this is a good example of universal design, given the number of people bringing rolling suitcases through these barriers. An escalator takes us up to the platform, which serves as the terminus for both the gold and red lines, and helpful digital displays indicate which train is leaving when, as well as which platform each one is departing from. A lot of the printed signage is in a uniquely Times New Roman-esque font, and the station is signed as S7. Each MARTA station has one of these designations, with the letter indicating which cardinal direction the station is away from downtown, and the number indicating how many stations it is away. This train now departing is one of the 3rd generation of cars on MARTA, manufactured by Ansaldo Breda between 2001 and 2005, and the most recent cars currently in service on the system, at least for the moment. The train pulling in is made up of the first generation of cars from, and I'm gonna say this wrong, Société Franco-Belge, introduced from 1979 to 1981, and second generation cars from Hitachi, which came online between 1984 and 1988. Alright, let's step inside and see what it's like. Whoa, very, very beige. Unlike the cushier seats of BART or the Washington Metro, MARTA's seats are hard plastic. For the most part, they face forwards or backwards. Leaving the airport, we cross I-85, where a non-revenue track splits off to the system's south yard. You can actually see this yard by heading over to the airport's other people mover, the SkyTrain, standing at the front and pretending to drive down the line, and then riding back to see tracks. Back on MARTA, we plow north, following a right-of-way belonging to Norfolk Southern, which is headquartered here in Atlanta. Sidebar, does it feel weird to anyone else that it's not headquartered in Norfolk? Just me? Oh well, subscribe if you want to see the tide soon. Stations on this stretch are all fairly similar, with island platforms. Like on the Dart Silver Line I rode a couple weeks ago, there is priority seating for individuals who need it, who use walkers or canes, and a separate wheelchair area, this time a small bay with a chain restraint for safety. This looks a bit hard to move in and out of if you're in a wheelchair, and overall, I'm not a big fan. I think a better design for wheelchair seating would look more like this, which happens to be the interior of MARTA's next generation of cutting-edge cars from Stadler, due into service in the very near future. Some have already been delivered. For any Medea fans out there, hello! Lakewood Fort McPherson Station serves the former Fort McPherson, now Tyler Perry Studios. There's even an announcement on board about this. We run elevated as we approach downtown. All 4 MARTA lines intersect at 5 Points Station, where we come to a stop at the station's lower level and watch our train depart, still signed for the airport despite traveling away from it. So as you can see, MARTA normally employs a Spanish solution here, with a track with platforms on both sides, but the center platform, where the train is departing, is unfortunately under construction at the moment. At one end of this otherwise fairly brutalist station, we find a weirdly ornate facade. This dates back to 1901, and was part of the Eisenman building, which was demolished to make room for the station. Upstairs, we find the blue and green line platforms, also a Spanish solution, and also technically at ground level. More about that later. One floor up, we arrive in the station's beautiful mezzanine. Then, back on the center platform, a few trains depart, including this Green Line train, which only has 2 cars. You know, I just realized I have now ridden every metro system in the continental United States. This was my last one. So what's there left to do? I guess San Juan. We board the Blue Line and quickly make our way east to Georgia State Station, whose signage is a bit faded. Back in motion, we curve slightly north, with a beautiful view of Atlanta's skyline. A sign reminds us that Coca-Cola is headquartered here, and just for the cost of a Coke every month, you can join my Patreon for early access to videos and bonus content. King Memorial Station is next, located near Martin Luther King Jr.'s church and burial place. Dense housing gives way to car-centric suburbs as we continue eastward. After Edgewood Candler Park, the terminus of the Green Line, the line runs elevated. It's here that a planned branch to Tucker in DeKalb County was supposed to split off the line, and about 300 to 400 feet of tunnel was actually built, before funds ran out. Here's some footage of it, courtesy of Lily the Railfan. Back underground, we cruise along for a bit before arriving at Decatur, where we step off. Ooh, that's a good departure shot. This station is a feast for the eyes, with architecture and murals dating back to 1979. The station's exterior is also fun, with a walkable shopping street, a park on top of the station, and a bus bay. And speaking of feasts, it's time for lunch. Well, I was going to be frugal and pack a healthy lunch for my trip to Atlanta today,
and then I left it in the fridge. So I'm going to, at the behest of one of my subscribers, check out Grindhouse Killer Burgers. I keep forgetting like how much further south I am than Philadelphia, because like we have cactuses going outdoors and not dying. Of course, when you're in Atlanta, you have to get Coke products. Not sponsored. All right, that was delicious. Now we're off to Ashby.
We approach the station from the west, where a gentle ramp slopes down to the mezzanine, covered in children's artwork.
This train is bound for H.U. Holmes Station.
Passing CSX trackage and newer dense development, we return to Georgia State, where we can see the state capitol building looking south. This is somewhat ironic, as MARTA's operational funds come entirely from local sales tax and limited federal funds. No regular state funding for operations whatsoever. In fact, it's the largest U.S. transit agency to not receive state funding for its operation.
It is worth noting that some of these stations really like to repeat their names along the far wall of the platform. Ashby, 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 Ashby. You're welcome, Tom. What's also interesting about Ashby Station is that it's built stacked up. So we are on the westbound platform, and the eastbound is underneath us, as you can see. I would go down there and show you, but I am about to get on the green line, which is coming imminently.
Green line train is approaching the station. Please stand back from the platform edge.
We're back on the move, curving up to the Green Line's only unique station. This line was, as you might imagine, intended to go further to the northwest, serving the development known as Perry Homes, which is now demolished. This was unfortunately cancelled, with no plans to revive the expansion, despite newer development on this corridor.
All right, welcome to Bankhead. We got about 8 minutes here before we return to downtown Atlanta. One thing that's kind of weird about this station is that it's very short. It can literally only accommodate a 2-car train, from what I could see. Also, this gives us the opportunity to look at a few more voiceover. We've got a little time, let's go down these stairs a bit. If I could give one constructive suggestion to MARTA, it would be to put tactile strips on their steps, because that would reduce the risk of someone taking a spill. There's the fare gates. And now back up to the platform. I think I missed the train coming in. Also, I will note that in my limited experience, escalators on MARTA are fairly slow.
Back on board the train, we can see into the cab. MARTA trains can be driven manually, and do have onboard operators, but they are by and large controlled by automatic train control, similar to other systems of the era. We arrive back at Dome, GWCC, Phillips Arena, CNN Center Station, which has got to be the second longest name of a US metro station, after, of course,
Harold Washington Library, State and Van Buren.
Calcudon needs help setting up for a job interview, so I stay at the station and put her on the phone as train after train passes by. Finally, she leaves me for her interview, but the next train stays put for a while.
So, this train is out of service, which is fine by me because this is where I was getting off anyway. But some of the lights are off and I smell something like burnt electronics, a bit like when I used to run model trains in my bedroom.
Since the train isn't going anywhere, I venture out of the station to have a look.
So this is the view from the mezzanine at this station, and it's really crazy. Well, here we go, they're finally getting it out of the way. This is a funny exit. The main part is sealed off, but there's like a little door. And what's crazy is that up there, that's not a highway. That's the city of Atlanta.
Yeah, it turns out that the MARTA platforms here are in fact built at ground level, with a massive structure above us, making it feel like we're underground. Leaving the catacombs, we ascend to the artificially high surface, home to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the Georgia International Plaza, and State Farm Arena.
So this whole park is what sits on top of the MARTA station. It's hard to believe that we are on top of that brutalist mess down there.
We're just a few blocks away from Atlanta's downtown skyscrapers, and walking into downtown, we reach perhaps MARTA's most iconic station.
So down here is apparently the longest escalator in the southeastern United States.
And that's not the only cool part of Peachtree Center, which serves the red and gold lines.
I think Calcudon would appreciate this advertisement.
Heading down to the platform, We can see that the station walls are composed of exposed rock. Nice! We take the train one stop north to Civic Center. The entire ride from Peachtree Center has been underground, and this station still feels very subway-like, so it's quite surprising to find that we're actually in the middle of a bridge over a highway.
What is bizarre is that we're in kind of a subway-esque station. These just came out of a tunnel back there, and behind me is the highway from the seemingly stock footage opening shot of this video.
As you can see from the satellite view, the station sits above the highway, but on either side are subway tunnels. In many ways, MARTA felt familiar to me while I was filming this as a frequent WMATA rider and occasional BART enjoyer, but at the same time, something felt off. Every station, and even some of the signage and interior design of the trains themselves, felt like a product of a previous time. And that's why I think MARTA felt so distinct. Travel across the DC Metro, and you'll go from the iconic waffle-ceilinged caverns of the 70s to sweeping, modern above-ground designs. MARTA is different, with no new track or stations opened or added over the past 25 years. The original system plan still has yet to be built out. There's still no buy-in from two nearby counties, which could have been viable destinations, and no operational support from state legislators who work a stone's throw away from one of their stations. It gets a bad rep among Atlanteans who don't ride transit, as well as some rather crude nicknames that I won't repeat here, and will delete if I see them in the comments. It was built in an era when building such a system could get the necessary support, but now that it's here, it's basically just being kept alive as a mid-sized system. Still, against all that, MARTA keeps chugging along, running the nation's last citywide heavy metro system. They're doing what they can, including planning new infill stations and purchasing some of the best-looking modern metro trains in the country. Because what Atlanta Transit supporters know, and others will hopefully realize sooner or later, is that Georgia is sitting on a uniquely powerful urban rail system. And this thing